The mind can be seen as revolutionary or in serious danger, depending on the intelligence of the mind in communication and the maturity of the spirit. Hi, I'm Wave Angel 7 and this is Video Log, April 2nd, 2012. Fuck April Fools. I am wearing my hero uniform from Venus Dune comic book. See? That's a noticeable detail, I think. Oh, yes, and as you can see closely, it's actually not quite a bat symbol. But anyway, to the notes. These are notes about the observation of systems I call SkyNet. The name is a descriptive metaphor. Sky, the power to rise above on the wings of doves, the wings of angels, to transcend habits and behaviors, ungrounding yourself, to compare or prepare paths to move to higher consciousness and behaviors and maturities. Net, something to catch you from this action and detain you in some way. Very simple. The responsible entities are forces I wish to be able to pin down to specific entities, to be fair to individuals which do not make these descriptions. My current information points generally to popular Western theological thought, which, in cases that are SkyNet active, are religious forces who urge a deviation from all sources of theologics but their own, or forces which discredit mysteries that they cannot define as a prejudice response to worldly views, informations, types, which challenge them in some way. The pharmaceutical industrial network, HETS, interesting acronym for that actually, include healers who have sold their integrities for sponsorship, attempting to capitalize on drugs which seem far too basic in treatment methods and composition to be of greater help. And methods which focus more on revenues from many prescription drugs rather than revenues from pleasing and healing the distracted and damaged mind-body souls. I may hint at a shadow government function to this, which would be extremely realistic in my experience, only to manage economics and conflict. I'll explain all of this and how it works, but first let me detail motives and reasons for SkyNet. The greater civilization has begun to notice M-gene characteristics effects on cultures and markets. M-gene I will define again as the character of the mind-body soul, which promotes evolution and greater maturities. Within older cultures, this process of greater maturity, even spiritual, especially spiritual, is expected, accounted for, or even enforced. However, in Western culture, this American culture, people wonder at something simple as projection and imaging. With this, any detachments from waking perception which form a lack of accountability for actions in psychedelic or mystic mindsets, especially during spiritual walk, concerns American enforcements. M-gene characteristics are therefore neglected, discouraged, or in more traditional Western societies prohibited. We are changing this process, the process of worldwide renaissance. It is not a hope. It is an action. This is a mechanism invented and managed by the aforementioned networks to contain and disclose evolutions for the sake of public management. I use SkyNet to define this, since this mechanism is something that WRI must react to. WRI acronym define World Renaissance Initiative, detailing the general maturity process or enlightenment experiences correctly and honestly over wide information networks will compete directly with media veil efforts, partially urging the divine sense of responsibility in psychedelic detachments that incur with seriously evolving thought processes will affect the opinions of law enforcement over time. Also, making light of techniques to prevent delusion is highly important to reduce confused behavior or monsterhood. I'll explain in great detail monsters and how to deal with them once you know how to see them in my next vlog. Within popular Western theologies, the trend is that there is a self-aware general source of creation who is the resulting reason for life, and the trend therein is to provide them with worship and gesture so that they do not perish or suffer for their transgression. I must interject that angels can never believe this. This information is basic and misleading. The general response of individuals in this culture to anything defined to them as magical is a danger to them because insert lie here. This entity has spanned the world for centuries, removing older cultures and attempting to replace the ways of the survivors with Western method. I imagine that their obsession with worship and hierarchy stinks of many old kingships influences. The book they revere says king, this and that all over it, inside and out, which I gather is a jinkies. Pharmaceuticals. I have scrolled too far here. Pharmaceuticals seem mainly concerned with how many units they are selling. To that regard, many patients of this system seem to receive at least a diagnosis of bipolar and aggressively advised to return for a diet of drugs. These drugs are expensive and poorly thought in treatment method, with a number of inevitable side effects, which are by far worse. This only helps this morality in business, for the more you hurt, the more fix-it pills you must buy to remain stable. I have witnessed people manage mystic mindfulness and self-corrective healing with much less complex diet of materials. The details of this pinned information have the human constantly comparing to a model mind that is unideal for enlightened growth in many views. If they wish, the angels can help them sustain and help people while sustaining and helping the business. I'll challenge them to break their pride, but I doubt they will. To speak more on that on improv before I go on, it is extremely harmful in industry to take a molecule that is relatively basic in thought and to re-basic it for cheap engineering and cheap market, and to provide this as a healing method, knowing that it harms more than it heals. And it, by law, you must advertise how much it harms more than heals, and people very listen to that because it is said quite quickly, you know. These methods are shady and not of a healer who has taken a Hippocratic oath, and I challenge you on that. To go on. Any federal management is very confidential and is for the use of economic stability. For badly progressing mystics are dangerous and expensive to treat. Good mystics tend to do well in endeavors that force events in marketing trend and subsequently in trading. Also, contemplate the social unrest that would be the result of federal forces being outed for cleansing demographics and drugging children for industry's sake. And other things. You would get the point then. Generally, you know that many in power realize that changing the world to benefit the growth of humanity is more a complicated process than these entities are willing to adapt to. They are more willing to adapt to organized methods of profiting for the systematic tamperings of human societies to propagate propagandas relating to acceptable perception and using taboo and norm in heart of deception. To clarify those words, when you use what people think are bad and good and notify those things, in a sense of moving people along in simply what to buy, and not moving them along in what's healthy and unhealthy, and seeming to care less of the growth of the individual at all. These people are suffering because of the nature of the society. And the nature of society is afraid to change because of its economic instability. Its economic instability is only advertised. I can test to you that America is very stable in supporting its military, about at 80% over its people at 20%. So to move that in education at least a little bit to an initial 20% and cut down on the massive amounts of F-14s patrolling wildernesses will greatly improve American culture. To go on. SkyNet is evil and must be avoided if you are to grow. I advise you to keep a tribe of varied and contributing minds that will help you be accountable for your behaviors in any situation. If SkyNet catches you, the result is a red list from social responsibility and a test of intelligence which victims sometimes fail unfairly. To fly is to transcend your own behaviors and to influence all that ground you, rising above to a path, any path, in chaos. To fly on the wings of a dove is to do so in peace, love, unity, and respect, enforcing an automatic Hippocratic oath and the values of the enlightened. To skate on the G-road and fly, as I say, is to fight gravities with energy and to respond to forces in chaotic paths chosen in flight. If you understand that, then you can move technology. Metaphor, say it for, world explore, never war, yet adore. I stay in. Remember the words of voice. We are not the darkest, we are not the damned, we are not inhuman. We are the honest ones. We keep ourselves so faithful. When the worlds change their powers at their will, we will stare them down, remaining ever prideful to stare them as an equal. We are. My next video log, I will detail zombies and what to do when you deal with one. The difference between zombies and vampires, and monsters in general, how I define them, and what to do about them, because they do influence your world in very real ways. And I will detail it all, and it will be very serious. For now, I'm at 13 minutes, so I must end. So, good night. Never let the dark hearts win.